Okay, we have the cycle of birth and death through the mineral, plant, animal, and human kingdoms, where each one of these is a lifetime. Okay, so we're advancing. We should have really drawn this the other way around, but we're advancing through the mineral, plant, animal, and human kingdoms, right? So up here, let's say, is human, and we started here in the mineral. Okay, then we eventually went through many rounds in the mineral kingdom. Then we graduated to the plant, and then animal. We'll put human here. Okay, this process is called the transmigration of souls. Step 3, what today was all about, returning home, right? Go return to base. So it turns out that the correct term for this cycle of death and rebirth and the evolution of the monad is return. It is not reincarnation. This is not reincarnation. This is return. We're going on the alm of life, and we have to keep going and go, and each time we have to make a return. It's not reincarnation. And we have many cycles that we have to go through, many just in the human kingdom alone, to do what? To evolve our monad and reach nirvana, to reach Buddhahood, to become a Buddha, reach nirvana. And then this cycle continues. The alm of life goes on, but now it's in the heavens, in the divine kingdoms. We're no longer returning. We've already reached nirvana. We've earned the right. We've earned our place. We've won the game, and we've enabled ourselves to enter into the supernal worlds, to enter into nirvana and exist there. We can stay there for quite a long time. But if we want to continue our conscious evolution of our monad, and this transmigration of souls only applies once we get to this point. Now we have the conscious evolution of the monad in the supernal worlds. But the kingdom, the playing field, the board that we play in is still the universe. Monads who have graduated, monads who have reached this level and beyond, they can choose when and how they're going to reincarnate. Until then, monads don't get to choose when and how they're going to return. While we're on this side, okay, in the transmigration of souls, while we're working our way up to the level of at least nirvana, while we're working our way up, the law of karma dictates when and how we return. But once we get to a certain level, we've earned the right to go to nirvana. Once you reach nirvana, now you can have that vacation. You can spend, you've earned the right to be in nirvana. But if you want to continue the conscious evolution of your monad and go higher and higher up as a being, and there are many levels of beings in the supernal worlds. If you ever hope to want to graduate to, first of all, being a master, or a resurrected master, or an ascended master, or a cosmo creator, well, you've got to keep doing this process. Now, if you continue this process of just occasionally coming back down, living a lifetime, working a little bit on yourself, eliminating a little bit more of your ego, and then coming back up, that's called the spiral path. You hang out in nirvana, and you just come down and you reincarnate every now and then, and so on and so. But that's where the term reincarnation applies correctly. It only applies to those monads who have already gotten off the wheel of samsara, who have already completed their transmigration of souls. Yes, of course. But not only that, if you have good karma, if you are well on your way and you don't harm anybody and you're a good person, everything else, you can get a holiday in nirvana, your monad can, from the transmigration of souls while you're in the human kingdom. If you've had a particularly difficult, challenging lifetime, but you made a lot of progress, then you can be granted a little holiday in nirvana, where it's not immediate that you're coming back, or you're not going into limbo or hell or whatever, because the lords of karma are merciful. And if you've had a particularly rough go of it, there's no particular reason to make you suffer unnecessarily. So you can get a little, but this is all dependent upon your karma and everything else. So it's not something you want to count on. But once you reach nirvana, that you can count on. No one's going to force you to reincarnate, right? Because the law of free will governs the supernal worlds. However, there is another path called the direct path. The direct path is the path of the bodhisattva. The direct path is the path where you're not shooting for nirvana, you're shooting for the absolute. You're shooting for Christification, to become one with the logos. For a bodhisattva forgoes the pleasure and the comfort of nirvana. Someone who's on the path of the bodhisattva says, you know what? A vacation in heaven sounds wonderful, and coming down and reincarnating whenever I want and having a relatively easy life whenever I want because I've earned it. That's all sounds great too. But, the prospect of doing that for I don't know how many lifetimes, this is the path of the nirvanis, or the pratyeka Buddhas, they're called. The path of the bodhisattva chooses a path of suffering and sacrifice for humanity, and longs to eliminate all of their ego in one lifetime. And they forego the comfort and security, the comforts of nirvana. They don't want a vacation. In other words, they want to go all the way. They want to go straight to Christification. Now, they still have to do countless revolutions of the Alm of Life, but they do it in one lifetime instead of over many, 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 many lifetimes. And that's why they suffer so much. That's why they take on such heavy burdens. And then, once they become one with the Christ, one with the Logos, they become at least resurrected masters, and if they become ascended masters, then they are in the running to do reincarnations, which constitute tremendous works of sacrifice and service. So they are in the running, for example, to become avatars of the age, saints, prophets who come down and reincarnate, and they know from a very early age that they were born for a reason, and they devote and dedicate all of themselves. Their entire life is devoted and dedicated to suffering humanity. And so they continually, when they reincarnate, they continually they walk the path of the bodhisattva over and over and over again. Every time they reincarnate to live a life of suffering and sacrifice. Because if we can use a crude analogy here, it's like a hardcore gamer who's played the game and is played it on the lower levels, and it's just not, there's just no challenge there anymore. So he cranks it up to the hardest difficulty level, and he seeks out the hardest challenges in the game. And he seeks to make the game harder and harder and harder and harder himself, because the more and more you master the game, the greater and greater challenge you seek to test yourself, the limits of your mastery. This is what an ascended master is. Well, how do you think someone becomes an ascended master? All these new age people think they're going to ascend. It's a very clever, insidious degeneration and twisting and corrupting of the word ascend by the Black Lodge. Ascension is the process that we're describing now. Someone who's so high a master, they can no longer challenge themselves as a Buddha. They have to become a bodhisattva. And then then it's not enough just to be a master. They have to become a resurrected master. It's not enough to just be a resurrected master. They have to become an ascended master. And then beyond and beyond and beyond. And then what? There's only so many times and so many ways that you can live the life of a bodhisattva until you're like, you know what? Let's make it a whole different game now. Let's reincarnate as a planet. Let's have a body of a planet and have an entire humanity, all of our children that we're responsible for, that's wrapped up in our karma as a planet. It's a whole different game. That's the game of a cosmo creator. But then there are also archangels, and there's all sorts of other things to do, activities to do in the supernal worlds, because there's a game going on in the supernal worlds. So Leah said, that makes sense. We do get a break. Joanne said, so much is making sense. And she said, this is such wonderful teaching, so much clarity. There's rhyme and reason to the universe. There's a purpose for everything. And why do we value experience above everything? Why do we value wisdom and experiential knowledge above all else? You would never get into a plane that's piloted by somebody who only learned how to fly by reading books. That's insanity. So how can someone become a cosmo creator and take on the body of a planet and the responsibility of an entire humanity if they haven't already lived multiple lifetimes as a bodhisattva, as a saint, as a prophet, as an avatar, suffering and sacrificing, devoting themselves, giving all of themselves to a suffering humanity? And they've done that over and over and over and over again. They have so much experience doing that that in the absolute and the Lords of Karma and the Great Law, they say, you know what? You've earned your right. You've graduated to the level where you, if you choose, can now reincarnate as a planet and take on the responsibility of an entire humanity. Why? Because you've proven yourself time and time again, walking the path of the bodhisattva, suffering and sacrificing for humanity. And you've proven yourself for ages in the supernal worlds as an angel, as a guardian angel, helping and managing humanities from the supernal worlds and guiding others and guiding monads. And look, we could spend the next 24 hours talking about nothing but this, about all the other levels and all the other things that are waiting for us. But guess what? It's okay to know that in a general conceptual way, but here and now we have to focus on the game that we are playing at the level that we are at. And that is the hard truth of it, because we are never going to get to experience any of those other levels if we fail at the levels that we are at now. You see what we're saying? So it's all wonderful and it's all great, but it's all academic if we don't work with the alm of life, and if we can't learn how to return to home base at the level that we are at the game that we are playing now. But return we must, because you don't get to play another round. You don't get to go to the next level until you complete all three aspects of the level that you're on. And frankly, that's why the video game analogy, or this baseball game analogy, is so powerful, because you don't get to go to bat again until you run home, right? You don't get to play the next level in Super Mario until you beat the level that you're on. It's just how it works. You got to crawl before you walk, before you run, before you fly. It's just how this works. Nobody has anything against you. Nobody's punishing you. Nobody's holding you back. Nobody's holding you down. It's just the way it is. Everybody has to go through the same thing. The details are different, but the archetype, the alm of life, is universal and ubiquitous. All monads must go through this. All the details are different, but the fundamental journey is the same. This is what Joseph Campbell showed in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. 6,500 traditions and stories and mythologies and spiritual traditions and scriptures and everything else. The details are all different, but you strip away the details and what you're left with is this, what we showed you today, what we've been talking about these past 3 weeks. This is the completion. This is the full big picture of all of this. And where you start with these tiny little revolutions, right? In the mineral kingdom, these tiny little revolutions, and then they go out and out and out and expand. And where's the limit to this? Grab yourself a telescope, grab yourself a panoramic view of the Hubble Space Telescope and all the different galaxies in the universe, and say to yourself, where are the limits to the alm of life? Where are the limits? You're welcome, Leah. It is our pleasure and our privilege